Welcome back to Bookhaven. I'm going to be doing a wrap-up of November's reads, the books I read and that I didn't read, so stick around. So for the month of November, I got through 6 books, pretty on average, but considering the size of the books, I did pretty good. So, it's like going to the gym. I'll be giving you a brief synopsis of each book, a rating, and an official like it or leave it. We're going to be talking about My Father's Swords by Dave Skinner, A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee, Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand, and 3 books in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Okay, first off is Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. This was my first time reading anything by this author. I do have another one of her books. I believe it's called Furyborn. Haven't read it yet, but it's definitely on my TBR. It's a multi-perspective story told from the perspective of 3 girls, Marion, Zoe, and Val. Let's read the inside here. Beware of the woods and the dark, dank deep. He'll follow you home and he won't let you sleep. Who are the Sawkill Girls? So we have Marion. She's the new girl. Awkward and plain, steady and dependable. Weighed down by tragedy and hungry for love she's sure she'll never find. So Marion is coming to Sawkill Rock after a great tragedy happened. She's moving with her mother and her sister. She has just been the rock for everyone, and she's kind of, held it all together while everyone else falls apart. And she's the first girl we follow. Zoe is the pariah, luckless and lonely, hurting but hiding it, aching with grief and dreaming of vanished girls. Maybe she's broken, or maybe everybody else is. Zoe is the police chief's daughter, and she's a spunky, funky kind of girl, doesn't really fit in, and she's dealing with her grief and just learning about herself, basically, and coming to terms with that and accepting and having people she cares about accept her for who she is. Then we have Val, beautiful and privileged, ruthless and regal. Words like silk and eyes like knives, a heart made of secrets and a mouth full of lies. You can tell I don't really like Val. Their stories come together on the island of Sawkill Rock, where gleaming horses graze in rolling pastures and cold waves crash against black cliffs, where kids whisper the legend of an insidious monster at parties and around campfires, where girls have been disappearing for decades, stolen away by a ravenous evil no one has dared to fight until now. Dun, dun, dun. Sawkill Girls, I give a 3 out of 5 stars. Good book for me. It was an easy read, a quick read. I believe I completed it within a couple days. The only problem being I didn't really connect with any of the characters, but I did love the diversity of the characters, the representation of LGBTQ+ in here. I love reading books that have that representation. We definitely need more. It was pretty fast-paced. The characters were interesting. The history in the story was interesting. I read it in November. It is a spooky sort of atmospheric book. Maybe it would have been better in October, closer to Halloween. But if I was to say like it or leave it, for me, I would have to leave this one. I believe I'm going to unhaul this one and give it a new home to someone who might click with the story a little bit more than I did. Next off, we have My Father's Swords by Dave Skinner, who is an indie author. Can't find this in bookstores, I believe, but you can get it on Amazon and probably most e-readers. The author is someone that I know through a friend of mine, and when I heard that he had written a fantasy or an epic fantasy, I was very, very intrigued, and he was nice enough to sign a copy for me. I was a little bit apprehensive at first when I read the back, because I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so many things on the spectrum of fantasy all wrapped up in this one little book. I mean, it's not little, but 340 pages comparatively for so many things in it. Let me tell you. It says warriors, heroes, demons, pirates, wizards, fairies, Dragons and a magic sword come together in a unique coming-of-age adventure. When his father is killed by pirates, Bray is raised by the Tashi, who everyone believes are murderous savages. His position as the crown prince of Nadia is denied him because the Tashi have a secret they kill to keep. His family believe he is dead, and most of the Tashi believe he should have been killed instead of adopted and trained as one of their own. But Bray's life has purpose. Retrieve his father's sword and return to Nadia. A mad wizard's attempt to harness a demon gives him a chance to fulfill his dreams, if he can survive. I mean, all those things in one book, under 340 pages. Warriors, heroes, wizards, demons, fairies, dragons, and magic. Yes, it has it all. This is not a perfect story. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Overall, it was so much fun. I really connected with the main character, Bray. You got to know him and his backstory and could just really feel for him through all the things that happened to this poor boy as he grew up and found himself in all these different circumstances. And you cheer for him. You want him to succeed. I highly recommend this book if you want a simple, fast-paced, really fun fantasy. I finished this book in a day and was ready to read the second one in the series, but got distracted by the many books on my TBR. But I definitely cannot wait to read the second and the third one. I believe it will be a trilogy, don't quote me on that, but have a look at My Father's Swords by Dave Skinner. Next off is A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This was one of my favorite books of the month. I fell in love with the characters, with Percy, Monty, Felicity, I believe her name was. I'll tell you a little bit about the story now. I'll read inside. Henry Monty Montague was born and bred to be a gentleman, but he was never one to be tamed. The finest boarding schools in England and the constant disapproval of his father haven't been able to curb any of his roguish passions, not for gambling halls, late nights spent with a bottle of spirits, or waking up in the arms of women or men. But as Monty embarks on his grand tour of Europe, his quest for a life filled with pleasure and vice is in danger of coming to an end. Not only does his father expect him to take over the family's estate upon his arrival, but Monty is also nursing an impossible crush on his best friend and travel companion, Percy. Still, it isn't in Monty's nature to give up. Even with his younger sister Felicity in tow, he vows to make his year-long escapade one last hedonistic hurrah and flirt with Percy from Paris to Rome. But when one of Monty's reckless decisions turns their trip abroad into a harrowing manhunt that spans across Europe, it calls into question everything he knows, including his relationship with the boy he adores. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, probably pushing more towards even 4.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely adored this book. It was a fantastic love story, a memorable adventure. I can't speak highly enough about this. It's snarky, it's sarcastic, there's great banter and wit. It's just so much fun. You'll find yourself laughing out loud and maybe a few tears throughout the story as well. One of the things I most loved about this book too was the geography, where they had their adventures across Europe. It reminded me a lot of my travels. Part of the story took place a good chunk in England and France, Italy, and Spain, and you really get a good feel for some of the cultural aspects throughout the story. It's just a fantastic read to kind of pick you up by your bootstraps and smack a smile on your face. So if you're looking for a good time, definitely check into The Gentleman's Guide for Vice and Virtue. Last but not least of the books I got through in the month of November are the first 3 books in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. So far, if I was to rate this overall, wrapping the 3 books together, I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I'll break it down a little bit more individually. So first off, we've got Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, the first book in the series. I'll read you a little bit about. 2 men love her, the whole land fears her, only she can save them all. In a world without magic, an assassin is summoned to the castle. She comes not to kill the vicious king who rules from his throne of glass, but to win her freedom. If she defeats 23 killers, thieves, and warriors in a competition, she will be released from prison to serve as the king's champion. Her name is Selena Sardothian. I love her. Yes, we'll talk about that. The crown prince will provoke her, the captain of the guard will protect her, and a princess from a faraway land will befriend her. But something evil dwells in the castle, and it's there to kill. When her competitors start dying one by one, Selena's fight for freedom becomes a fight for survival and a desperate quest to root out the evil before it destroys her world. So, as you can tell, very fast-paced book. I would give this individually 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the story, fell in love with Selena. Some of the other characters, this again is a multi-perspective story. Dorian, the crown prince, has quickly become one of my favorite characters in the series. There is a bit of a love triangle, which you're already sort of told about in the beginning. Not my favorite trope, not my favorite thing to read. I didn't love the love triangle, but the political intrigue, the fast-paced, action-packed, and the heart of the main character of Selena was what really drew me in. Very addictive series, very good book. I read this in a couple days and went on to the second one. So if I were to say like it or leave it, definitely like it. Second in the Throne of Glass series is Crown of Midnight, again by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this book 4 to 5 stars. It was a very enjoyable read. So again, to the back, I'll read a little bit and then tell you some of my thoughts. An assassin's loyalties are always in doubt, but her heart never wavers. Assassin Selena Sardothian won a brutal contest to become the king's champion, but she is far from loyal to the crown. Though she hides her secret vigilantly, her deadly charade becomes difficult when she realizes she is not the only one seeking justice. No one is above questioning her allegiance, not the crown prince Dorian, not Kale, the captain of the guard, not even her best friend Nehema, a foreign princess with a rebel heart. Then, one terrible night, the secrets they have all been keeping lead to an unspeakable tragedy. As Selena's world shatters, she'll be forced to decide once and for all where her true loyalties lie, and whom she is willing to fight for. Well, the impression that synopsis gives me, you get to know the characters a lot more and the world in the story. To me, this is what this book was mostly about. It was about getting to know the characters' backstories, seeing their relationships evolve, and it's beautiful. There is a beautiful love story in this book, some great friendships. If I was to say like it or leave it, this book would definitely get a big old like. Next we have Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, the third book in the Throne of Glass series. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is one of the lengthier books that I've encountered so far in the series. The first 2 weren't bad. It is 554 pages. So this was a pretty lengthy book. It was okay, like a 3.5. It's not bad. I didn't love it. There were some things that really bothered me. Starting with the things I did like, I loved the world building. It was fantastical and magical, getting to learn more about the part of this world where magic still exists. And again, it is multi-perspective. You get introduced to new characters in the story, and that is where I started having some problems. It just really bothered me that I started to notice that almost all of the male characters in this book were quite, their relationship with Selena, the main character, was really quite, I don't want to say abusive, but in a way it was. The relationships didn't start off in a healthy way with any of the men in these stories. And I get that because it kind of goes along with the whole assassin storyline, and it makes sense. I understand why, because it's the information that these men have about her in the first place, and you see everything go along and develop into something much more enjoyable. But that was kind of, that got to me, especially in this book. One of the characters that was introduced, I absolutely hated at first. And also in regards to Selena, it was quite angsty. I mean, for good reason. There was a lot of rage and sorrow and grief in this book, but I found that to draw out a little longer than I would have liked. Overall, I can't say too many bad things about this book. I did read it in the span of a day, maybe a day and a half. I'm well into the 4th book now. So I will continue the series. It's not perfect, but it is quite addictive. Now, the books I did not read for the month that I had planned on reading, I had mentioned before, Astrid the Unstoppable by Maria Parr, The Sea of Monsters and the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan, Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend, and Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I had planned on finishing these last week. I really wanted to finish this before the end of November, but I got swept up in the Throne of Glass series. I had only meant to read the 1st book in the Throne of Glass series, and then now I am in the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series. So these will be pushed into my December TBR, which I will be sharing with you in one of the next videos. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below, and please like and subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you.